main problem with him was they dropped this mixtape on 10/17 and tried to like ride my wave. You know what I'm saying? Like he was an artist of mine and we get some kind of money together. So I just felt like, you know, for our artists to drop their mixtape on 10/17, which is my label, on the day that I dropped all my label they dropped their mixtape on 10/17. Why would you drop it if you ain't on 10/17? And when I call you as my partner to ask you why you did, you say, oh, I didn't know you were dropping the mixtape.
Gucci Mane in this interview expresses his thoughts as to how Gotti had crossed the line by disrespecting their friendship due to the supposed coincidence of the dropping of their mixtapes.
But me and you on the top of World Star, you would have freestyled me with a video, but you say you're unaware that this mixtape gonna come, and I got a battle that says come out 10/17. So it just made me lose all respect for him instantly.
He went ahead to also admit that he lost every ounce of respect he once had for Gotti, because Gotti should have known better than to drop his own mixtape at the time.
I don't know if I'm more shocked that dude actually say my name in a song that's a diss record, or the reason why the people say he say my name.
Following this came diss tracks, and Gotti did not hold back to speak on the brawl brewing. There's a lot more to unpack, guys, so let's break it all down. Back in the early 2000s, hip-hop was a whole different vibe from what it is now, and artists like Yo Gotti and Gucci Mane were already starting to make waves. They weren't the big-time bosses we now know today, but were raw and unapologetically tied to the streets, the old-school versions of themselves. Both had rising names in music while keeping their street rep solid. Gucci, coming up in Atlanta, had earned the nickname Ice Cream Man of Zone 6, and one of the wildest moments that solidified his gangster reputation happened during his beef with Young Jeezy, aka the Snowman.
It was just something that had took over that you know, it was just an undeniable smash at the time, so.
And then after that, though, it seemed like the two of them were really beefing, though.
Yeah,
it escalated.
On May 10th, 2005, things got real for Gucci Mane, aka Radrick Davis. He was chilling with a female friend at her Decatur apartment when 5 masked men stormed in, armed with tape, a gun, and brass knuckles. Reports say they threatened to shoot Gucci, punched him in the face, and pistol whipped his friend. Witnesses later heard a fight break out, followed by gunshots. The intruders bolted, with one of them asking, "Are you hit?" as they fled. One man, later identified as Henry Lee Clark III, aka Pookie Lock, was found dead near a middle school a few days later. Pookie Lock's connection to Young Jeezy exposed the bigger picture. Gucci beat the Emder charge by claiming self-defense and later dropped the diss track The Truth, calling out Jeezy with lines like, "A $10,000 bounty put on my neck. Hope you didn't pay him because they didn't have no success."
$10,000 bounty put on my neck. I hope you didn't pay them because they didn't have.
And go dig your partner up. Bet he can't say S word. And if you looking for the kid, I'll be in Zone 6.
Go dig your partner up, bet he can't say shit. And if you're looking for the kid, I'll be in zone.
Meanwhile, Yo Gotti was building his name in Memphis with a history that went back to trapping before he was even 12.
Matter of fact, I won my first $500 in that hallway right there. And my mama called me with some dope in that hallway when I was about 12. Man, that was a thing. But look.
Like Gucci, he wasn't new to street drama. In 2010, during Thanksgiving weekend, a fight outside Level 2 nightclub in Memphis escalated into a shootout that left 6 people wounded. According to court records, it all started with an argument between Yo Gotti, aka Mario Mims, and Lance OG Boo Dirty Taylor. Both Gotti and Boo Dirty were arrested, but with no witnesses stepping up and no solid evidence. The charges were eventually dropped.
Okay, then both you and Yo Gotti got arrested over that. They dropped the charges.
Yeah, because didn't nobody come forward and press charges. No, now either side came and press charges.
These two had real street ties, which probably explains why they clicked so well at first. Gucci and Gotti ended up linking up and dropping hit after hit together, from tracks like Mo Money to Colors with Juelz Santana, Ridiculous, and Bricks. They were running up numbers in the industry. It wasn't just singles either. They went deeper, putting out collaborative projects like the definition of a G&G S-word mixtapes. But that chemistry didn't last long enough for them to fully take over the game together. A beef between them started to brew, and it eventually ended their partnership both as rappers and as street dudes. The turning point came on October 17, 2012, when Gucci was gearing up to release his mixtape Trap God, a big move for him and his 1017 brand. That date, 1017, was more than just a release day. It represented Gucci's whole identity and his label's foundation. On that same day, though, Yo Gotti decided to drop the next installment of his Coke Music series, CM7, The World Is Yours. At first, Gotti claimed he had no idea they were both dropping on the same day. When he found out, he thought it was a chance for them to dominate together. So he hit up Gucci, excited about the coincidence. But Gucci didn't respond.
It came down to me and homie were dropping on the same day. We didn't know. I didn't know in the beginning. I found out probably a day or so later.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But once I found out, because he supposed to be my homeboy, so I hit him. You know what I mean? I hit him to chop it up back there. I ain't, he ain't hit me back. He ain't answer. So I'm thinking like, maybe he got a different number. You know how they be. Change numbers all the time.
Right.
Gotti brushed it off at first, figuring it wasn't a big deal. He tried to reach out again and still got no response. Things took a turn when Gucci posted something online that made Gotti realize there was a problem. Gotti called Gucci directly to clear the air.
Last minute, we in the lab, we heard about the tweet. When we heard about the tweet, I immediately hit his phone. Like, what's up, homie, you good? You know what I'm saying? And, we chopped it up.
They talked, but Gucci wasn't really focused on the release date conflict. He was more upset about Gotti working with his rivals, T.I. and Jeezy, on the I Got That Sack remix.
He didn't even speak about what he tweeted. He was like, oh man, you put Jeezy and Tip on the Rex remix. Jeezy tried to... I'm like, what?
After some back and forth, Gotti thought everything was smoothed over and they would get back to business. To him, this was just a moment to celebrate. They were both dropping tapes, and it could have been a win for both of them. But from Gucci's perspective, it wasn't that simple. He saw Gotti's move as disrespectful, like he was trying to ride the wave of 1017, which was such a key part of Gucci's identity. Out of respect, Gotti changed his release date to 1018, but by then the damage was done.
It came down to me and homie were dropping on the same day. We didn't know. I didn't know in the beginning. I found out probably a day or so later.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But once I found out, because he's supposed to be my homeboy.
Gucci dropped his tape on 1017 and Gotti followed on 1018. But their friendship had already started falling apart. Not long after, Gucci escalated things by dropping a diss track aimed at multiple rivals, including Jeezy and T.I., and threw a shot at Gotti with the line, I used to F with Gotti until he turned into a buster.
Both me and you on the top of World Star, you were the freestyling me with a video, but you say you're unaware that this mixtape gonna come, and I got a battle that says come out 1017. So it just made me lose all respect for him instantly.
Publicly, their feelings about the fallout were clear. Gucci said he lost respect for Gotti, while Gotti expressed disappointment in how Gucci handled things. Looking at it from the outside, it's easy to see both sides. From Gotti's perspective, Gucci was his homie, so why wouldn't they drop on the same day and make a moment out of it? But from Gucci's side, it felt personal, especially since Gotti claimed he didn't know about the 1017's release, even though Gucci had been promoting it all year. For Gucci, it probably felt like a betrayal, intentional or not. Gotti explained his side, saying he's not the type to be all over social media or paying attention to what other rappers are doing. He's focused on his own music.
It's a funny situation because first of all, I do my music and I don't keep up with what other people doing.
Soon after, Gucci dropped a diss track, and Gotti fired back with his own track, Have Mercy. Yo Gotti continues to say in the end, he is just disappointed in Gucci, whom he considered a friend, and who has reportedly already recorded a diss track towards Gotti. I'm more disappointed than anything, cause you mentioned a diss record. I heard about the record last night. I'm more disappointed in him than anything, cause I looked at him different. What I perceived of him is not the way he playing out. The Gucci I always knew, I thought he was a straight-up stand-up guy, street-type dude, and street dudes don't handle business like that. At that point, whatever friendship they had was done. But Gucci had his own issues too. He was spiraling, caught up in his addiction to lean, which his now wife Keisha Kawar later confirmed he was struggling with during that time.
It's hard to get off lean.
Because they're constipated. Mm-hmm. They don't go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he talked about that in the book, yeah.
Yeah, so all of that was constipation, 40 pounds. Because he went in like 290.
While battling his demons, Gucci had a complete breakdown and took to Twitter to air everybody out. Nobody was safe. He came for Nicki Minaj, Drake, his former artist Waka Flocka, and of course Yo Gotti. Gotti didn't feed into the drama directly, but in a later interview, he revealed something that might have been the real trigger behind all the beef. Before the whole mixtape release drama even went down, Gotti had hooked up with Keisha Kawar. And if there's one lesson the streets keep teaching, it's that messing with someone's girl almost always always ends badly. This all unfolded while Gucci was locked up, which many believed was during his one-year stint for violating parole. Gotti brushed off the situation like it was just part of the game, saying he didn't know Gucci was serious about Keisha and figured Gucci understood how things go in their world. Everything came to a head one night at this spot in Atlanta. I ain't even gonna say which club it was, but the old heads know. Gotti was inside doing his thing when word got back that Gucci and his whole squad had pulled up deep. What happened next? Some people say it was straight gunplay in the parking lot. Others say it was hands and bottles. All we know is when the smoke cleared, that club looked like a hurricane hit it, and both sides knew this beef was officially beyond music. After that night, the whole South had to pick sides. You couldn't book both of them in the same state, let alone the same city. Features got canceled, songs got vaulted. It was real out here. But that club incident, that was just the beginning. What happened next showed exactly how serious Gucci was about this beef. In a 2012 interview with DJ Drama on Shade 45, Gucci didn't even try to hide how he was moving. He straight up said, "I'm going to see him and his family." That's the type of time Gucci was on, making threats that weren't even threats, they were promises. Gucci's troubles didn't stop there though. In late 2013, he was arrested again and faced serious charges. 2 counts of possession of a firearm by a felon after Atlanta police found guns on him in 2 separate incidents just days apart, on September 12th and September 14th. He was looking at 20 years behind bars. In a way though, that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Being locked up forced Gucci to slow down and deal with his issues. When he came out, he was a whole new person, clean, focused, and ready to take over. He became a father, reconnected with Keisha, and leveled up to become the boss of one of the hottest label rosters in the game.
Now you have to choose, and I felt we prayed so much and asked God to help us, and we feel like God answered all our prayers, and your return favor is to change.
Yo Gotti, on his end, has been leveling up too, building a powerhouse label and making moves that have solidified his spot in the game. He's put together a roster that's been dominating charts and the streets alike, proving he's just as much of a boss as anyone in the industry. It's crazy how far both of them have come, considering where they started, grinding in the streets, turning that hustle into music, and then using music to create entire empires. And even though their beef seemed to put an end to their collaboration era, you can't help but hope that one day they might let all that go. It feels like time and success have a way of making old drama seem less important, especially when both sides have already won in their own ways. Imagine if they could sit down, hash out whatever's still lingering, and decide to hit the studio again. They had a chemistry that was undeniable back in the day, and the tracks they made together were straight hood anthems, raw, unfiltered, and full of that energy that made people feel connected to their stories. If they ever got back on the same page, it's easy to see them dropping something that could bring back that same vibe, maybe even with a new twist to show how far they've come since then. The game is always better when real ones like Gucci and Gotti find a way to coexist and create, especially with the influence they have now. They are both at the top of their lanes, but it'd be wild to see them come together again, not just as a nod to the past, but as a statement about growth and how even the hardest beefs don't have to last forever. Before the beef, before the fame, Gotti and Gucci were just 2 young hustlers trying to make it out of the trap. Yo Gotti, born Mario Mims, was coming up in the Ridgecrest apartments in North Memphis. For Yo Gotti, life in North Memphis wasn't just hard, it was a daily struggle for survival.
Many days roll raps, man. Man, thinking of wishing a be in a position right now, you know what I'm saying? Wishing a go far and succeed in his rap.
Living in Ridgecrest apartments, Gotti was born into the game. His mother and aunties were all hustling, running corner stores that were really fronts for other activities. In his 2017 interview with The Breakfast Club, Gotti kept it real. "I ain't never seen nothing legal growing up. Everybody I knew was in the streets. By age 10, little Mario was already helping count money from his family's operations. His uncle had him working in their corner store, learning business while watching the streets. What most people don't know is that before he was Yo Gotti, before he was even Lil Yo, young Mario was an honor roll student. I was good at math," he told XXL in 2012. "When you counting money early, them numbers come natural." At 14, Gotti dropped out of school to focus on hustling full-time. But he was also hanging around North Memphis studios, watching 3-6 Mafia and 8 Ball N MJN build their empires. DJ Sound, a Memphis legend, revealed in his memoir that young Gotti would sit in the studio for hours, studying how they moved, both in music and business. Gotti started rapping under the name Lil Yo, dropping his first tape Youngsta's on a Come Up when he was just 15. He pressed up 1,000 copies at $10 each, sold them all in a week. What's wild is he used that money to re-up on both more tapes and more product for the streets. Like he told DJ Vlad in 2016, "I was using the rap money to fund the streets, and the street money to fund the rap."
Get money, move to a better place, move your people out the hood, get the many you can take with you, and like that's the goal to me.
He was moving between the streets and the studio, building his name in Memphis when the city was already legendary for its rap scene. 3-6 Mafia had put Memphis on the map, and young Gotti was studying their blueprint while creating his own lane. Meanwhile, down in East Atlanta, Radrick Davis, better known as Gucci Mane, was on his own come-up story. East Atlanta Zone 6 was a whole different kind of battlefield. In his autobiography, Gucci wrote about how his father was a hustler who was never home, always on the move between Detroit and Alabama. His mama was a school teacher trying to keep him straight, but the streets were calling. What a lot of people don't know is that young Radrick was a serious student too. He was reading at a high school level in elementary school, and his teachers thought he might be gifted, but by middle school he was already serving small packs. "I was carrying a .380 to school in 8th grade," he admitted in his book. "Honor roll student with a burner under my notebook." Gucci's first real hustle wasn't even drugs, it was cards. He was running card games in his grandma's basement at 15, making hundreds a week. His brother Duke, who's rarely interviewed, told Complex in 2012 that Gucci was always the smartest hustler in the room. He wasn't trying to be the biggest, just the smartest. The music started seriously around 1997. Gucci was spending time at Studio 44 in Atlanta, learning from the guys who used to work with Outkast. Big Oomp, a legendary Atlanta producer, remembered in a rare 2015 interview how young Gucci would pay for studio time with loose change and hustle money. Gucci dropped his first tape La Flare in 2001, pressing up CDs and selling them straight out the trunk. He was moving between Atlanta and Birmingham, Alabama, building connections and trying to get his music heard. This was the same time Gotti was starting to make noise with his From Da Dope Game to DA Rap Game series. Their paths first crossed around 2002 at a spot in Alabama.
Back then, both of them was doing shows for a few $100s, sometimes less. According to Big Bank Black, who was promoting shows in Alabama at the time, Gucci and Gotti hit it off immediately because they saw the same hunger in each other. By 2004, both of them was starting to blow up in their respective cities. Gotti had dropped Life and was becoming the king of Memphis, while Gucci had back to the trap house and was taking over Atlanta. They started doing shows together, featured on each other's tapes, and was building what looked like a solid connection between Memphis and Atlanta. DJ Scream, who worked with both of them during this period, said in a 2015 interview that Gucci and Gotti used to spend hours in the studio together. "They was like brothers back then," Scream said. "Both of them came from the same type of background. Both was trying to put their cities on their back. It was natural they would connect. What made their friendship work early on was mutual respect." In a 2006 interview with Street Source magazine, Gotti talked about how he admired Gucci's work ethic. "Gucci in the studio every day, all day. That's the type of energy I respect." Meanwhile, Gucci was telling everybody how Gotti was showing him the Memphis blueprint for independent success.